been, well, a little shaky around here lately.
Yeah.
Washington State, we've had like a whole bunch of small earthquakes, popping up all over. From Maple Valley to Centralia, even some rumbles around St. Helens and Mount Baker. The iconic volcanoes.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, and Aberdeen and Bremerton, too. And it kind of got me thinking, could all these little tremors be unearthing more than just a little anxiety?
Yeah,
right?
That's interesting. Like what?
Well, we're diving into a Washington State flu alert today. And there's some interesting stuff about valley fever and arsenic contamination.
Oh, wow.
That we're going to look at to, see that's really shaking loose.
Okay, so you're wondering if these earthquakes could be connected to, like, an increase in respiratory problems or something?
Yeah, exactly. And the alert kind of hinted a link there.
I wouldn't have thought of that. I mean, I know earthquakes can cause, like, landslides and stuff, which obviously can kick up a lot of dust. But the alert specifically mentions valley fever. And that kind of threw me for a loop. I always thought that was, a desert thing.
Me too. The Southwest, right. Yeah. Not exactly Washington's evergreen forests.
Right. But it turns out that the fungus that causes valley fever, coccidioids.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know, right? It can actually be found in the soil in south central Washington.
No way. Wait.
Yeah. So anything that disrupts the soil, like construction or strong winds or earthquakes, can release these tiny spores into the air.
Okay, so we breathe that in.
Right, and they can lodge themselves in your lungs.
Yikes.
And here's the thing. The symptoms, like at first, often look just like a regular cold or the flu.
Really?
Yeah. Like fever, cough, fatigue. Not things you'd, automatically think, oh, it's a soil fungus.
No, not at all. So easy to miss.
Exactly. Especially here, where doctors might not even be considering valley fever as a possibility.
Right, because it's just not common.
So that's why this earthquake connection is so important. It makes people aware of a risk they might not even know exists.
Okay, so what happens if you actually get it? Is it, like, always a serious thing?
Well, the good news is a lot of cases are actually pretty mild.
Okay.
And clear up on their own.
Oh, good.
Your immune system just, fights it off. You might not even know you had it.
Wow, sneaky.
But sometimes it can turn into a really nasty lung infection. And then you're talking months of antifungal meds. It can take a long time to recover.
And these earthquakes we've had, like the one in Maple Valley was a 3.4. Even the one in Centralia, only at 2.3.
Right.
Could those be enough to, like, stir up these spores?
Yeah, that's the worry, especially because people might not even realize the risk.
And they're not taking precautions.
Exactly. But valley fever isn't the only hidden danger down there, especially when the ground shakes.
Oh, this is where it gets a little scary, right?
Maybe a little.
The flu alert also talks about arsenic. And that's just a scary word, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely has a reputation.
For good reason.
Yeah. And like those valley fever spores, it can be disturbed and brought up to the surface when there are earthquakes.
So hold on. We're not just talking about naturally occurring arsenic here, are we?
Oh.
I mean, we know there's a history of industrial use and contamination in some areas, so that could make things even worse, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's not just natural arsenic. Human activities have definitely added to the problem. Like, think about old pesticides,
right,
industrial waste, even mining. All that stuff can leave a legacy of arsenic in the soil.
Wow.
And earthquakes can basically reawaken those hotspots.
Oh, no.
Releasing arsenic that's been, locked away for years.
So it's like this double whammy,
a
natural arsenic getting churned up, plus these pockets of human-caused contamination. That's a lot to worry about.
It is.
So what kind of health risks are we talking about here with arsenic?
Well, it's a serious threat. And the scary part is the long-term effects.
What do you mean?
Well, we're talking higher risk of certain cancers, heart disease, diabetes, even developmental problems in kids.
Wow.
And the thing about arsenic is it's not like some, chemical that just breaks down quickly.
Right.
It clings to those soil particles, so it can stay in the environment for generations.
So even if the dust settles, the arsenic is still there.
Pretty much. It's like a ticking time bomb waiting for the next earthquake to, release another dose.
This is all starting to sound pretty grim.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to protect ourselves? Like, at all?
Well, knowledge is power, right?
Hopefully.
So the more we understand these risks, the better we can make informed decisions. The flu alert actually gives some practical advice for minimizing exposure to both valley fever and arsenic.
Oh, okay. So there is something we can do.
Yes.
Okay, good. Lay it on us. because I think we could all use a little hope right now.
Okay, so let's start with something most of us do. Gardening.
Okay.
Washing all your produce really well is key, especially leafy greens.
Because they're closer to the ground.
Right. And I know we're all guilty of, like, a quick rinse sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
But it's not just about the dirt you can see. Think about where you're getting your garden soil.
Okay.
Using clean soil or compost can help dilute any potential contaminants.
That makes sense.
And you could consider raised garden beds. They create a barrier between your plants and the ground soil.
I've been meaning to try those anyway.
Perfect.
Maybe this is the push I needed.
There you go.
So what about when we're not gardening? Any other things we should be doing?
Just simple stuff. Really, like dampen the soil before you dig or plant anything. That keeps the dust down. And wear gloves when you're working with soil, and wash your hands and face really well afterwards.
Especially before eating?
Yes, especially for eating. And especially for kids. They always find the muddiest spots.
Always. So true. Keep them out of the bare soil as much as possible. Right?
Exactly. And inside the house, damp mop your floors.
Okay.
Wipe down surfaces regularly. And actually, vacuuming can stir up dust.
Really?
So sweeping or damp mopping might be better.
So much for my vacuuming routine. But it makes sense. You don't want to be kicking up all those particles and breathing them in.
Exactly. And for anyone who's, especially sensitive or worried, like if you live in an area with contamination or recent earthquakes, the alert suggests maybe wearing an N95 mask when you're in dusty places.
So being proactive, not paranoid.
Right.
We can still enjoy our gardens and being outside, but just with a little extra care.
Yeah. It's about respecting nature. And knowing that even small events like those little earthquakes can have consequences we don't always see.
It really makes you think differently about something as basic as dust. I mean, we usually just think of it as annoying.
Right. Just a nuisance.
But now it's got this whole other layer, this potential to carry these, invisible threats.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Like dust is this connection between the past and the present.
How so?
You've got like ancient elements in there, like arsenic, remnants of what humans did, years ago, mixed with those tiny fungal spores that are always around us.
Wow. It's like we're breathing in history, literally.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about how important it is to understand your local environment. Like what's in the soil where we live, What happened here in the past?
Exactly. We need to know the history of our surroundings. Was there like industrial activity in this area? Were certain pesticides used? All that stuff can help us make better choices today, to keep ourselves and our families safe.
So it's a much bigger conversation than just, be careful in your garden.
Right.
It's about understanding how everything's connected. Earthquakes, soil, the air we breathe, our health, it's all linked.
Exactly. And this deep dive has really shown how things that seem totally unrelated can actually have these ripple effects that we wouldn't even think about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like we need to think more holistically about the environment and how it affects us.
And to be proactive.
Right.
We don't need to be scared.
No, not scared.
But being aware and taking a few precautions can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
If these earthquakes have taught us anything, it's that there's a lot going on beneath the surface, literally and figuratively.
Well said.
So listeners, next time you feel a little shake or see a dust cloud, remember what we talked about today.
Think about those hidden connections.
Stay curious, stay safe, and until next time, keep exploring the deep dive.
See ya next time.
This is where it gets